Hello, Stellenbosch stars! Yes! Yes! It is my great honor and privilege to be here with you today. I am Alaina G. Levine. I'm president of Quantum Success Solutions. This is a career consulting enterprise, mostly for scientists and engineers, but non-nerds too, because I'm inclusive. I'm a nerd myself. I'm also a science writer, a professional speaker, which will be totally clear. Also, I'm a corporate comedian. And I wrote a book called Networking for Nerds, and it's a true delight and honor to be here with you today to talk to you a little bit about how you can up your networking game, how you can learn how to network effectively to create your unicorn, your dream career, because that is the potential for you. You have limitless potentiality in terms of what you can do in terms of your career, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the types of skills that you can use in your toolbox and sharpen so that you can be even more excited and blissful and successful in your lives. Does that sound like a good plan to you? Yeah, why not, right? Why don't I help you see how amazing and awesome you are? Now, this is being recorded and streamed, just so you know. So I just wanted to let you know. And also, if you would like, you are welcome to, you are welcome to live tweet this talk, and I'm giving out a free copy of my book, Networking for Nerds. So the more you tweet, the more you post. You're welcome to post anything that I say or photographs of me or the slides. The more you tweet and hashtag with the hashtag and handle of the university and myself, the more opportunity you have to potentially win the book. And that goes for the people who are watching via streaming. So thank you, everybody, virtually. So I want to talk to you, start by talking to you a little bit about this photograph of me that's in the slide that you see in front of you. So does anybody recognize this outfit that I'm wearing in this photograph? Does anybody know where I would potentially wear this? On a racetrack. It's a fire suit. It's called a fire suit. So why am I wearing this fire suit in this picture? Because as a science writer, I was actually reporting a story about an engineer who worked for a race car team. And this race car team had, it's very rare in this racing world where he worked for a race car team to have an engineer on the team. But here was somebody who was super interested in two things in his life. He had two parallel tracks that he absolutely loved. He loved race cars and he loved engineering. And he wanted to find a way to combine his two loves. And why shouldn't he? Why shouldn't we all find a way to create our dream career from scratch? That's what he did. He made his brand, which is his promise of value, clear to anybody who he interacted with within the race car industry, to the point where he was able to establish himself as a known quantity. They saw him as an added value, and they created a position for him in the race car team. And I was there writing an article about him. And so because I was in the pit where the race cars come in through, I had to wear the fire suit. But I look pretty good in that too, right? That's okay, right? Okay, all right, good. So what's also interesting about that, so here was somebody who communicated his value to create his dream career, and he networked with people to create his dream career. And I was able to get that job as a writer for that magazine in the same way. I was at a science writers conference a few years before that. When I was writing, I met a couple of editors, and I was at a session where writers were able to pitch editors ideas that they could potentially write for them. And as I'm talking to this editor of a magazine called IEEE Spectrum, which is like a Wired type magazine, it's a technology type magazine, I was talking to this editor, and he said, "I know who you are." And I was like, this is great. Okay, awesome. So my networking and my self-promotion is obviously doing well. How did he know me? Many years ago, when I worked for the University of Arizona Physics Department, in my very first job after graduating university, I was the director of communications for the University of Arizona Physics Department. And while I was in that role, I had helped him in some way. I'd helped advise him in some way, and he remembered that. That was 15 years prior. He had remembered me. So at this conference, he identifies himself as that former student and says, "I remember you. You helped me at the University of Arizona." And I said, "Well, that's wonderful. What are you doing now?" And he says, "Well, I'm this editor of the magazine." And he said, "Would you like to write for the magazine?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, what do you like to write about?" And I said, "I like to write about careers, and particularly profiles of amazing superhero scientists and engineers in particular who transition and create their own unique careers. And he said, well, we have a very special issue every February called Dream Jobs, which does just that. Would you like me to introduce you to the editor of that section? And I was like, yes, please, that would be wonderful. And he did, and I was able to write articles for that issue a couple of years in a row about engineers who were doing amazing things. That was from networking. That job did not exist. I created it with him via networking. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. The reality is that most jobs are hidden. Most jobs don't exist, and we have to be able to create them through networking. So a lot of people think that if I want to advance in my career, I should just be looking for advertisements, advertised positions, advertised jobs. But reality is that I estimate about 90% of jobs are hidden. They are part of what I call the hidden platter of opportunities. So this hidden platter, and I call it that, is because it's offered to you when you are networking appropriately, when you are promoting yourself appropriately, you are offered this hidden platter of opportunities, which consists of jobs and other types of game-changing career opportunities that can help you think about what you want to do in your life. What are these hidden career opportunities? Why are they hidden? Well, first of all, in any situation with a job, whatever type of job it is, if there is an advert, there is always a short list. There is always people who are being considered for the position, so-called under the table, quietly. And these are people, if I'm the decision maker, it's because I've been networking with you. It's because I've gotten to know you and your brand, your promise of value, what you could do for my organization. I've gotten to know you. And I realized that you would be an asset in my organization. You've become a known quantity to me. I'm going to invite you to apply. That's a hidden opportunity. You get to the front of the list. Maybe it's an advertised position that because you and I have been networking and I realized that you would be an asset, I say, you know what, we're not even going to advertise it anymore. We're going to pull the advertisement. Why don't you come in for an interview? That's a hidden opportunity. Maybe it's a job in the course of our conversations and I learned a little bit about what you do and your skills and your background, and I see that you would be a really good fit for our team, and I create a job out of nothing for you in that moment. You know what? I can see how you would be an added value. I want to have you on our team. I want to have you in our organization. And then the final hidden career opportunity is a job that you create yourself by asking for it or by suggesting how you could add value. I see that you're looking for somebody who does X and Y. And you know what? I've done X and Y plus 1. Could we talk about potentially collaborating? Is there a way that we could perhaps work together? And you do this in a very honorable way, in a very appropriate and polite way, and a very respectful way. And really, that is the essence of networking. It is an honorable endeavor. It is not dishonorable. It is not sleazy. It's not dirty. It is honorable because networking is not, what can I take from you? What can I get from you? It's not, how can I mine your brain for a job or how can I extract something from you? Networking is, what can I give you? What can I offer you? How can I inject value into your organization? How can I make a difference in advancing your mission? That is the most honorable thing you can do, is to help somebody advance their own mission. That's what we're talking about here, is an honorable activity. So I'm going to talk to you more about that, but I wanted you to just get the idea of the sense that you could potentially create your own career, create your own job. So let me tell you another story, and this is one of my favorites. This is another true story, and I still can't get over this story, and I've told it 1,000 times. In fact, I've been here all week, and I've told it 1,000 times this week alone, okay? This is a story of a physicist, a particle physicist who worked at a university in the United States. And he is married to a food scientist who worked for Campbell's Soup Company, which was located in another state, in about a 2 to 3 hour airplane ride between where he worked and she worked. They had a commuter marriage. They had the classic two-body problem in academia, where you have two highly educated people in a partnership, and they're looking to live in the same area or same household or find jobs in the same community, and it's just very challenging to do. We know about that. They had that problem. And unlike most couples, they actually liked each other, so they wanted to live in the same house with each other, okay? So they were trying to solve this two-body problem for many years, and they just couldn't do it, so they just flew back and forth. And so one day, the physicist, this particle physicist, flies to New Jersey, which is my home state, in the United States, and where Campbell's Soup is located. And the physicist and his wife, the food scientist, go out to dinner with some of the executives in the from the plant where they make the mushroom soup. And over dinner, these executives were complaining. They were crying. They were so sad. Oh my gosh, sad, a tear. They were so sad because they had a problem they couldn't solve. You see, in the plant where they make the mushroom soup, every can of soup at the end, when you open it up, has to be exactly the same color. So you can't open up a can of soup and have like a green soup, and then open up another can and have purple soup, and then open up another can and have blue soup, because that's bad quality control and it's kind of gross. So they needed a way to identify, as the mushrooms went down the line, what mushrooms would change, what mushrooms would change the color of the soup and then remove them. But these executives, oh, woe unto me, they could not solve this problem. They didn't know how to solve this problem, and they were complaining about it, crying into their cheesecake over dinner with this physicist. At that moment, as the physicist is hearing this information and gathering data about this problem that they are complaining about, he jumps into superhero mode. And he says, why don't you use such and such optical device? This is an optical device that he had at the forefront of his mind. It was part of his toolbox. It was part of his toy box. He was trained and educated in this device. So he knew how to use it, and he knew he could solve the problem with it. And because he had been talking with these executives, he heard the language they were using to describe the problem. So when he responded with the solution, he used their language back to them. So as a result, they understood that he could help them solve the problem. They understood that he could add value. And in the middle of them crying into their cheesecake, they paused for a second to listen to this potential solution from a very diverse source, a particle physicist with no food experience, and said, that sounds interesting. And that turned into a conversation, which turned into another conversation, which turned into a sabbatical job, which turned into a job being created at Campbell's Soup Company for a particle physicist. Let me just say that again, because that sounds crazy and I still can't believe it, okay? A job, literally a job, was manifested out of nothing, created for a particle physicist with no food experience who studied gluons and quarks to work in a soup company. Because at the right moment when he was networking with these experts, he was telling them in their language, because you have to speak the language of whatever ecosystem you want to work in. He was communicating that he could help solve their problems. And you know what? Everybody, every entity, every organization is always looking for new sources of inspiration and new collaborators who can help solve their problems. We all have problems that have to be solved. I clearly have a few extra, okay? But the idea is we need to solve these problems. And I'm looking for diverse sources of inspiration who can help me solve these problems. And at the right moment, while he was networking with them, he wasn't asking for a job. He was simply saying, I can help you. I can help you solve this problem with this unique expertise. And as a result, they were open-minded to the idea that this person with this very non-traditional background would be able to come in and work in a soup factory. He joined the company. He finally got a chance to live with his wife. And he ended up saving the company millions and millions of dollars. He won all sorts of innovation awards. And I asked him, did you ever feel like you sold out? Because you were studying the essence of matter, and now we're designing soup-based solutions. Did you ever feel like you sold out, or that you were doing something less worthy of your education or your work? And he said no. He said it was a new playground for him. It was a new opportunity, a new hill to climb, a new challenge that he could apply his expertise with and have a great time, because it was a new hill, because it was a new ecosystem. I think that story is just a magical story, but the beauty of it is that it doesn't just happen once in a blue moon. It happens all the time. People create their own opportunities every single day. They do it through networking. That's what we're trying to do. He created his own job, and you can too. So today, I'm going to talk to you about the importance of networking, the importance of appropriate self-promotion. I'm going to give you very specific definitions, and then I want to talk to you about how to find and add people to your network, and then we're going to discuss how to network at an event. And we're going to also spend the last 20 to 25 minutes of this talk answering any questions that you have for me and discussing this even more so. So let me give you a very specific definition of networking so you know exactly what I'm talking about. So as I said, networking is not me taking, it's me giving. What can I offer you? How can I help to advance your mission? So here's what networking is. Networking is a spectrum of activities. It starts with that first point of contact. That's important. When I go to a conference, when I meet you here today, this is the beginning of our relationship. It's not the entire package of networking. We will be networking over time. So it starts with that first point of contact, and here's the honorable thing, here's the beautiful thing. Networking is about building a win-win alliance with you. I'm looking to exchange value with you in various forms and functions over time. And it ends only when one or both of us drop dead. That is networking. That's networking, okay? And the drop dead part is very important because networking is in for the long haul. There have been people that I networked with and spoke with 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I am still connected to them. Sometimes I don't talk to them for many years, which is my mistake, my error, but also I'm a human. So sometimes you can't talk to every single person in your network. And there have been times where many, many years have gone by and I haven't talked to people, but they're still connected to me. And when I reach back, they're interested in having a conversation. You network for the lifetime. It's not for the short term, it's for the long haul. So when you look at networking as what can I do for you, what can I offer you, your mindset changes. You get access to hidden opportunities because people see that you're not trying to get something from them. If you go to a conference and you see somebody really amazing and you go up to them and start talking to them and say, how can I get a job with you? Do you have any openings? Do you know of any openings? Can I get? People close down because nobody wants to feel like they're being used. But if you go to a conference and we meet and we start talking, and I learn a little bit about what you're doing, and I ask you, what's the best part of your job? What kinds of things do you do right now? What kinds of projects are you involved in? How did you get interested in this? And I'm injecting into the conversation a joy, and I'm trying to get you to talk about what brings you joy. We are starting the investment of the relationship, the investment in the relationship. And then we continue the conversation via phone or Skype in the coming weeks, and then over time, we can build potentially a relationship that leads to a very specific exchange of value. Maybe in the beginning, the exchange of value is just me sharing information and you giving me advice. Maybe as it builds, it continues to grow. Maybe I give you something, you tell me you're interested in X, I send you an article relating to X that I thought would be of interest to you, something of value to you. And over time, we continue to share our interests and goals, and we could potentially create a job for ourselves and for the other person. Because I am looking out for you. You are my partner now. So I am looking out for you. I'm looking to see what I can do for you. So when you want to access hidden opportunities or create them yourself, it comes down to understanding what your value is to a potential partner, to a potential collaborator, to a potential employer, being able to articulate that value through appropriate self-promotion, which we'll talk about, and then amplifying that value through reputation management activities. Ultimately, it's that we're trying to show that the value that we would provide would solve a problem, a unique problem for you. And maybe it would solve it in a unique way that you have never actually had a chance to have it solved. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Alaina, this is a really great idea about networking, but I'm not that interested in networking. I'm more interested in my field. My BFF, my best friend forever. Is that what you kids still say? Does I have to be cool? I have to make sure I'm cool. Okay, good. So my BFF is not networking. I'm not interested in networking. I'm interested in my field. I want to advance my field. It's not my career. It's my field that I'm interested in. But I would say to you that if you are not interested in your career, you still have to invest in networking. You still have to network. And the reason is because if you want to advance your field, you have to have a constant influx of diverse sources of inspiration who can help you solve the problems in your field in new ways. How could you possibly solve the problems in your field with new ideas that are novel, without having new perspectives, new ideas, people with different backgrounds coming in to assist you. So networking not only helps your career, and not only gives you a bigger perspective on what you can do with your career, but it gives you a bigger perspective and helps you solve problems in your field. That's very important. And I think the great example of the physicist working in the food industry, that's exactly what that is. You know, my background, I didn't say this, but my degrees are in mathematics and anthropology, undergraduate degrees. And I also studied abroad in Cairo, and so I did graduate work in Arabic. I did science communications. I love business. I love performing arts, and I love all sorts of different areas of the scientific, just the scientific lifestyle. So I'm very interested in all these different diverse things, and I'm always looking to interact with diverse sources of inspiration who can help me think about my problems that I'm trying to solve as a career consultant, as a speaker, as a comedian, as a writer. I'm constantly looking for new sources of inspiration who can help me think about these things better and give me new ideas. This helps me in my life, it helps me in my fields, it helps me in my career. This is an asset for me, and this is an asset for you as well. The thing about networking, though, that a lot of people think have a challenge with is that networking can be challenging, it can be hard, it's time-consuming, and it is much a job as whatever your field is. And interestingly, at any given time in our lives, we have 4 full-time jobs. We have 4 full-time jobs at any given time. So the first full-time job that we have is our job right now. And I don't care if you're a graduate student working 20 hours a week, quote unquote, or that you're or a postdoc and you're working this amount of hours or whatever. We all know that your job, whatever it is right now, is a full-time job, probably full-time and a half. Then your second full-time job is getting your next full-time job. That's a full-time job. Your third full-time job is networking, and your fourth full-time job is being a human. And you know, as a human, I have observed, I've taken some data, and I've observed that I need to eat occasionally, sleep, drink, talk to other humans, tell some jokes, do some other things, communicate. I need to do some things as a human, okay? So that's a full-time job too. So if anybody can handle 4 full-time jobs, it's the stars of Stellenbosch. Am I right or am I right? Yes, of course I'm right. Am I right? Yeah. They're streaming this live. Am I right? Can the stars of Stellenbosch handle this? Yes, absolutely. Okay. So we're going to be in the frame of mind and do networking and career planning in such a way that, you know, there are people who complain, they say, I didn't get a job, I can't do this, I can't do that. Successful people are willing to do what non-successful people are not willing to do. And when I use the word successful, I want to be clear about that. I mean somebody who is in a career and in a job and in a place that brings them joy, that brings them bliss, that brings them flow. And by the way, that's a fantastic book to read, Flow, The Psychology of Optimum Performance, F-L-O-W. I am in flow right now. What you are observing right now is Alaina in flow, okay? I am enjoying myself very much. I'm reacting to you. If you laugh, I'm glad. If you don't, that's all right. I'll pivot and give you another joke. I'm sure I'll find something. But the point is that this is a challenge for me, but I have the skills to be able to meet that challenge. That is what I define as a success. That's what the author of Flow defines as flow. Finding an opportunity where you have a high challenge, but you have high skills to be able to meet those challenges. So I define success, somebody who's in a successful position, somebody who is in flow, who is experiencing flow in their career. But honestly, when I also define success, I want to be clear. My definition of success in a career is going to be different than your definition of success, because the only one who gets to define success for you is you. Exactly. Only you gets to define success for you. So if you have figured out that you would like to go and pivot your career from structural engineering or from ecology and evolutionary biology into the world of cupcake baking, I am thrilled for you, because you have figured out that that brings you joy, that brings you flow. And if you're going to do that, go for it. I'm sure I can help you. I think I know some people in the baking industry. Let's network and I can connect you. Okay? So something to think about. So now, talking about landing the jobs, talking about finding the jobs, if I am a decision maker in an ecosystem, in an organization, and I have to hire somebody, I will always have 2 metaphorical piles of candidates that I could potentially look at to think about who I want to invite to apply or who I want to invite for an interview. Now, pile number one, if it's an advertised position, pile number one consists of maybe 500 applicants, depending on the position, depending on the economics, depending on the industry. Let's say 500 applications. Now, these 500 applications came in through a black hole of a website, right? The website advertised the position, and then creatures from some other dimensions apply for the job. Through the black hole, they come through, and their resumes end up on my pile, right? I don't know who they are. They are literally from another dimension, another universe, another exoplanet. Who knows who they are? I don't know, okay? But that's 500 applications. But I have another pile of applications. And that pile consists of two, maybe three at the most, maybe even one. That pile consists of your application, and your application, and your application, because you and I have been networking. And I've gotten a sense of what you can do. And I see that you would be a good fit for my organization. I can see that you would add value, that you're excited, that you're enthusiastic, that you're smart, that you're brilliant. I can see that this would be a good fit. So I'm going to invite you to apply. Now, I have a problem. I'm the decision maker. The problem I have is I have to hire a talent into my organization. That's a problem in and of itself. But the bigger problem is that when you hire people, there's a huge risk involved. There's a huge risk of resources that are involved. I have to manage that risk, and I have to mitigate that risk as much as possible as a decision maker. So what is this risk? This risk, sometimes when you're hiring somebody into an organization, it can cost upwards of 3 times the person's salary just to bring that person in. But there are other resources that are lost as well, such as time. So I need to mitigate the risk, and I need to solve the problem in the most efficient, effective manner possible. What am I going to do? Am I going to go to the creatures from the black hole first? Is that going to solve my problem? Absolutely not. I'm always going to go with the known quantities. I'm always going to go with the people that I have already been interacting with, who I understand their brand, their promise of value. I understand what you can do for my team. That's going to solve my problem more quickly, more efficiently, and with less risk. And what we want to do with networking is get on that pile, okay? And not like interact with the creatures from the other universe, okay? Now, when we talk about also creating opportunities for ourselves, I also want to talk about the idea of opportunity identification and landing opportunities and seeking out opportunities. And every opportunity leads to another opportunity. Take advantage of every opportunity that you possibly can. And not every opportunity is a job. Sometimes it's an opportunity to just have a casual conversation with somebody, and you never know where that can lead. But the idea is take advantage of every opportunity. And be brave in your networking. Be brave in your opportunity identification and seizing opportunities. Because most people are afraid to take advantage of opportunities. You know, from my own perspective as an undergraduate student at the University of Arizona, there were signs all over campus announcing a fellowship, a travel fellowship that undergraduate students could get to travel around the world. And I saw that sign for years, and I said, oh, there's no way I could apply for that. I'm not competitive enough. I don't go to Stellenbosch, so why would they accept me? You know, I just thought that I was just not good enough, and I was not in the competition, so it didn't seem even like a bother. It seemed like I wouldn't even bother to apply for this award. And then one day, my friend skips into class and announces, yay, I won this fellowship, I'm going to China. And I wanted to smack her. And I'm not even a violent person, I'm super peaceful, okay? But I was like, what? How did she get this award? If she got this award, why can't I get this award? I have to be brave and realize that I am as good as everybody else. You are as good as everybody else. You should be brave. If you want to apply for an award, apply for it. If you want to talk to a professor who is a VIP or a CEO or whatever, you should talk to that person. Be brave in your networking, because people who are brave, who have that courage, other people notice that. They see that in your attitude and they seize on that. Let me give you an example. So many years ago, I was teaching a class at the University of Arizona called Entrepreneurship for Scientists and Engineers. And on the night of my course, I had heard that a very famous businessman by the name of Steve Forbes, he has a magazine called Forbes Magazine. He's written books about business. He was going to be coming to the university to give a lecture about a new book that he had coming out. And it was on the same night as my class, and I wanted my students to hear what he had to say because he was a very well-known and successful business person. So I canceled class and required my students to come to the lecture. So I also wanted to hear him speak, but I was running a little bit late. So I took the back stairs in the building to take the shortcut to get to the auditorium. And while I'm looking up at the stairs, I see that Steve Forbes is at the top of the stairs. And I don't think, and I just scream, "Hey, Steve!" And I just run up the stairs. So now I'm like with Steve Forbes. I mean, this is like Elon Musk. This is like Bill Gates. I mean, like I'm now walking with this guy. So Steve Forbes was walking really, really fast. Now I wonder, where was Steve Forbes going? Will Alaina reveal it? We'll find out in just a moment. Anyway, he's walking really fast, so I just followed his pace and his gait, and I just matched it. And I said, "Hi, Steve, my name is Alaina Levine. I'm teaching this course at the university. My students are here tonight." He said, "Oh, it's nice to meet you." I said, "Listen, I write a column for the newspaper, the biggest business newspaper in southern Arizona." Side note, it was the only business newspaper in southern Arizona. However, having studied mathematics, I know that 1 is greater than 0. Okay? Yes. Okay? So I said, I write this column for the biggest newspaper, business newspaper in southern Arizona. I'd love to interview you for that. Would you be interested? He said, yes. I said, do you have a card? He said, no. I said, here's my card and a pen. Can you give me your email address? Why shouldn't I ask for a celebrity's email address? He said, okay. He writes it down. I take it back. I give him a fresh card. And then I said, thank you very much. He extends his hand. I extend my hand. We shake, and then we end. And this is the key point. We stopped the networking at that point. Remember, we had been walking very fast, very, very fast. Where was Steve Forbes going that Alaina dare not network? Where was Steve Forbes going that Alaina dare not go? Where will Alaina not go? Alaina will not go into the men's washroom. That's correct. That is absolutely correct. So, gentlemen, good news. I'm not going to follow you into the men's washroom, okay? That is our border, okay? We will stop networking at that door. However, ladies, you are on notice. We will be networking in the bathroom. And I have been, of course, the ladies' room in anywhere on this planet and also on Mars where there are no women, there is always a line for the ladies' room, everywhere. So I have networked with people online for the washroom. And I've actually gotten job offers from that networking. My point to you is be brave in your networking. And when you see Steve Forbes and when you see Dr. whatever and this person and this amazing person, reach out to them. You say, I'd love to talk to you. Could we have a few moments? Why not? Why shouldn't you? A few years ago, I had the privilege and the honor of interviewing and writing an article about Elon Musk. Interviewed Elon Musk. Of course, SpaceX, Tesla, we know, right? Okay. Elon Musk, I had emailed his public relations team, like I don't know how many emails, there was maybe 5 emails to different members of his public relations team to ask them if I could write an article about Elon Musk, if I could interview him for a magazine. Elon Musk, as you know, has an undergraduate degree in physics, and I was writing a column for a physics magazine, so I was going to interview him for that magazine. I asked his PR people, could I interview him? And they said no. And I let it lie. And then one day I was sitting in a conference, in a lecture, a seminar. And I guess it wasn't mine because it was kind of boring. And I started to scroll through my email to take my mind off of this. And I remembered that it had been a year since I emailed his team. So then I said, you know what? Why don't I just try it again? I got nothing to lose. Why not be brave and ask for what I want? So I emailed 25 members of his PR teams on both sides of his company. And I got a no and a absolutely no and get the heck out of here no. And then I got a maybe. And the maybe was from somebody who had authority. So then when I got on the phone with the maybe guy, I didn't say, give me Elon Musk, I want Elon Musk. I said, listen, this is what I'm interested in doing. I'd like to interview and write an article about Elon Musk. This is what we could potentially give you. We'll split the article in 2. We'll do a lot of promotion. We'll make it on the front page. He'll get a lot of feedback and visibility and a spotlight. This is the kind of thing that we can offer. Would Elon be interested in that? And in the end of the conversation, the PR guy said, yes, you know what? Elon is interested in that. We'll do it. We like your idea. We'll do the interview. So then on such and such a day, Elon Musk called me, because I'm a lady. So, and I did interview him, and I wrote that article, and it was really great. It was just an interesting piece. But the idea that I wanted to say to you is, why shouldn't you have limitless potentiality for yourself? Why shouldn't you say, I want to work with this person, I want to talk to this person, I want to be with this person, why should, or be in this organization, or work in this ecosystem? The potentiality is there. It's limitless. You have to be brave, though. Most people are not. They are not brave. You be brave, you get what you want. You ask for what you want, you get it, okay? What we're trying to do is essentially be an entrepreneur. We're looking for problems that we can uniquely solve. You see, the thing is that most people, I want you to sort of think about this metaphor for a moment. Most people, as they walk down the street, literally even like today, as you walk down the street, not you, because you're Stellenbosch stars, but other people, other non-Stellenbosch stars, they walk down the street and they walk in this path because there's physically and literally a sidewalk in front of them. There is a path right here. And maybe there's even a wall here preventing them from going over here. But you see, the thing is that they don't even notice that that wall is there. They just stay on the path because the path is defined in front of them. But Stellenbosch stars, what you guys do is you actually look around. You're seeing what is going on. You're taking data. You're looking at the whole system. And you're saying, why is the sidewalk here? And what is this wall? Hey, there's a wall here. What is this wall here? Who put it there? Why is it here? How is it here? What is it made out of? Can we knock it down and upcycle the contents into a new product, a new service, a new company? That is the mark of an entrepreneur, is not only solving problems in unique ways, but seeing problems where other people don't even see problems. They just see walls. Your job is to find the pain points in ecosystems, in organizations, in teams, and be the one who alleviates that pain point. Be the one who knocks down that wall. That's the value that you provide. That's what networking gets you. Now, networking is inherently linked to self-promotion. So now let me give you a very specific definition of self-promotion so you know what I'm talking about. Because I'm not talking about boasting, and I'm not talking about bragging, and we never ever embellish, we only tell the truth. So self-promotion is very specifically done in an appropriate form and ecosystem. That's a key thing too. It has to be done appropriately. Me running up to you and screaming, I'm awesome, hire me, is not appropriate, and that's well, I don't know if it's true or not, but it's not appropriate, okay? So, but an appropriate ecosystem is LinkedIn. Posting something on LinkedIn that would be of value to that community, that is totally appropriate. That is completely appropriate self-promotion. So we first find an appropriate form and ecosystem. Then we share completely truthful and authentic information about ourselves, that we have this expertise, that we have this knowledge, that we have this credential. It is designed to provide strategic information about my value to you so that you will want to engage me further in a positive manner. So let me give you an example of that. This is a metaphorical example. Let's say I'm at a conference, a chemical engineering conference, and I'm talking to you, and you work for Chevron, and we're having a conversation. I say, what's the best part of your job? And you say, well, I really enjoy the idea of going and visiting different nations and developing refineries and working with different partners to understand their energy needs. And I say, oh, that sounds really interesting. What nations, what regions are you working in right now? And you tell me you're working in the Middle East. And I say, oh, that's so interesting. I don't know if you realized it, but I actually did a fellowship, a travel fellowship, to Cairo. I studied at the American University in Cairo, and in fact, I did 4 years. I ended up doing 4 years of Arabic total. I was fluent, and I know the language, I know the culture and the customs. Maybe there's a way that we can collaborate. Maybe there's something I can do to assist you. I'd love to work with you. And just having that sort of mannerism and that tone, I am promoting myself, but I'm doing it appropriately. I'm not bragging that I went to Cairo. I'm not bragging that I spoke Arabic. I'm giving you strategic information that's useful for you as you try to solve the problem of working in the Middle East. That's useful for you because you're looking for problem solvers. That's what I mean by self-promotion. That comes organically when we're networking. We don't have to tumble it out. It doesn't have to just come out of our mouths. We can reveal the information slowly over the course of one and many conversations. But we do it appropriately and we tell truthful information. But the bottom line is that self-promotion is not bragging, but you have to champion your own value. You have to articulate what it is you could do for a potential customer, a potential collaborator, a potential employer. Because if you don't speak up, then nobody else will know about it and nobody else will do anything about it. Only you can be the champion. Okay? So we have to start with that. Now, I keep mentioning the word brand, and I want to talk to you for a few minutes about the connection between brand, attitude, and reputation, because these are very, very important in networking and also in career development and career exploration. So a brand, as I mentioned, it's not a logo, it's not a cartoon character, it's not a tagline. A brand is simply a promise of value. And we all have brands. Organizations have brands. Stellenbosch has a brand, and individuals have brands. Our brand, our promise of value, is our promise to deliver excellence, dependability, and expertise in everything that we do. Excellence, dependability, and expertise in everything that we do. And what happens is as I'm networking with you and building and investing in this partnership that we're building, I'm learning more and more about your brand. And the first time that I engage you and you do such a great job, or I see your energy, I see how smart you are, I'm going to expect that you're going to deliver on that promise of value the second time. So I'm going to go for you a second time. And then I'm going to expect that you're going to deliver it a next time. And suddenly you've become a known quantity to me, and I'm going to go to you every single time because I trust your brand. And you've delivered on that expectation and that promise of value every single time. That's what we need to do. We need to be able to understand what our brand is, be able to articulate it to the publics, of which there are many, so that they know that we would be able to deliver on that promise of value every single time. Many years ago, I was giving a speech at an association in the United States, a speech about networking. And they knew that I was also a writer. And a few months after I gave that speech, they emailed me and they said, "We have an emergency. We need an article written in 2 weeks. Can you give us a help? Can you help us out? We're in a bind." And I love it when people come to you, this is important, when people come to you and say, "We have an emergency, can you help us out?" The answer is, of course I can. I'd be delighted to help you out, okay? And so I did. I wrote the article and they liked it. And then they came back and they said, "That was a great article, could you write us another article?" And I did, I delivered, and they enjoyed that. And then they came back and they said, "Could you write us 40 articles, 40 articles over the course of the next year, and we'll give you a full-time, well, not a full-time, but we'll give you this extensive contract." Now, I don't even know if they advertised that job. I don't even know if they even thought to advertise that position. But because they had already engaged my brand and they saw that they were getting a promise that was delivered every single time, they were going to go with me. I was on that short pile every single time. That's what networking does. It gets you access to the hidden opportunities because people see and interact with your brand, and they trust that you will deliver on that promise every single time. This relates very closely to your attitude. Now, your attitude is your calling card of your brand. In absence of other data about who you are and what you could potentially provide my team and my organization, I'm going to take data based on your attitude, and I'm going to assume that your attitude is telling me what your brand is. Now, the thing is that sometimes those are not aligned, and I want to give you a very good example of that. So many years ago, when I worked for the University of Arizona Physics Department as the communications director, I needed to hire a student assistant to join my team. And what I did in the interview process is something that a lot of interviewers do, both consciously and subconsciously. I introduced what I call a challenge stimulus into the interview equation. And a great example of that is that Intel Corporation, famously, they used to, when they would hire high-level sales candidates, they would have part of the interview at a restaurant, and they would pre-arrange with the restaurant to mess up the meal in every way possible. The food would be wrong, the server would be rude, the fork would be dirty, everything would be wrong because they wanted to give those types of stimuli to the candidate, put that pressure on them to see how they'd handle themselves. Would they handle themselves in a professional, appropriate manner, or would they freak out and start screaming? That's what they were looking for. And when I needed to hire a student in my team, was I simply had the door to my office closed. Because obviously, what I wanted to see was when the candidates came to interview with me, would they do the most appropriate, honorable, and professional thing, which of course is to knock on the door, wait for me to say enter, and then come on in. And I'm happy to say that 90%, so 9 out of 10 candidates, did that. They were very professional and respectful of me. However, there was one guy. Ha! You know who I'm talking about. That guy. Because you don't want to be that guy. And also, Alaina's going to stop with the air quotes because this gets really old very fast. Okay? But you don't want to be that guy. Who did that guy do? What did he do? He saw the closed door. He walked right in. He walked right in because clearly he owned the office, obviously, if he walked right in. He walked right in and sat across from me. And it was one of those rocking office chairs. And he put his hands behind his head and he rocked back and forth throughout the entire interview, like this. Now, in addition to me becoming totally seasick, I was mystified because why would he do that? Why would he be so disrespectful to me? It's a job interview. He is disrespectful. He's dishonoring me by behaving like that. His actions told me that he was cocky, that he was a boaster, that he thought he was a know-it-all, that he thought he owned the place. Now, that was what his attitude told me. I didn't know about his brand yet. In absence of all other data about his promise of value, I took information based on his attitude. And his attitude told me that he would not be a fit, that he would not be a good asset to my team. And therefore, I didn't hire him. The brand is the promise of value. The attitude telegraphs what the brand is in absence of other data. So when you walk into a room, are you smiling? Are you happy? When you're talking to somebody, networking at an event, are you giving them eye contact and responding to them? Or are you looking at your phone? Are you walking into rooms without knocking? What are you doing? People take data based on your attitude, and it gives them decision-making power. They make decisions on who you are and what you could do for them based on your attitude. That guy could have been the most brilliant public relations strategist. But in my mind, all I saw was somebody making me nauseous, physically nauseous by going back and forth. So I didn't hire him. But that happened like 20 years ago. And to this day, I don't remember who I hired or the gender of the person I hired. I only remember, say it with me, with the air quotes, that guy. Okay? Okay. That's the now, here's my promise of value. I will not do that again. I promise in this speech. No more air quotes. Now, the third piece of this puzzle is your reputation. Your reputation is your most important asset. It's what people know about your brand and your attitude. It's what people know about your expertise, your knowledge, your skills, your credentials, all of those things. That's what people know. And your reputation is going to sneak into nooks and crannies, into the ether, into ecosystems and universes and the multiverse and exoplanets and all sorts of different places and people and locations that you never would have imagined. It's going to go there. And it's going to either open doors and give you lots of vistas of career opportunities, or the corollary is it's going to not only close those doors, it's going to totally obscure them. You're not even going to know those doors, those opportunities exist. Case in point, I mentioned that column that I wrote for the business magazine in Tucson, Arizona, where I live. And the way I got that opportunity, by the way, is I was at a mixer at a public relations networking event with editors from different publications in the city. And I went up to the editor of this publication at the end of the mixer, and I introduced myself, and I said, I'd love to write a column for you. Could we have a conversation about it? I didn't think, by the way, just like with Steve Forbes, I didn't think. I just walked up to him and realized I want to write a column for him, and I just said it. And when there's new blood in an organization, when there's a new leader, oftentimes that's the best time to talk to them anyway about new ideas, because they have a new vision and they want to bring in new collaborators because they want to execute that vision in a novel way. So I kind of knew that, and that's probably part of the reason why I said that to him is spontaneously. And he said, let's have a conversation. So I took that as an invitation for a formal interview, and I went in very formalized. I had all sorts of things with me. What I did not bring for that conversation was a list of references. That was just an oversight on my part. I should have brought a list of references. I just didn't think to do it. I sent him a thank you note, and a couple of months later, he emails me and he says, okay, we've made the choice. I think this is a great idea. We're going to hire you as our columnist. You have an excellent reputation. And I was like, yes! And then I was like, what? Because how did he know I had a good reputation? I didn't tell him who to speak to. He was new to that company. I don't even know, he might have been new to the city. But somehow, my reputation, through his own network of contacts, had been delivered to him. And the reputation obviously was a good one because he saw that my brand would deliver value to him if I was on his team. And so he hired me for that column. And a few months later, he said, we have another idea for a column. Would you like to write another column? And I said, sure, I'll do you this favor one time. you know. And so this is the point that I wanted to make to you, is that when we're networking, we are communicating our brand and our attitude, we are amplifying our reputation, and we want to make sure that when we are out there, I'm sorry, I did it again. When we are out there, okay, in the community, in whatever ecosystems we endeavor to work in, that our reputation is clean and pristine and is truly representative of our brand and our attitude, so that we can make sure we get the hidden opportunities that we want. Okay, so here's the bottom line with networking. What networking allows you to do is it allows you to brand yourself as a value addition to an organization in your particular field because you're solving problems. It establishes you as the known quantity, and therefore the risk associated with hiring you is mitigated, and so I'm going to be more likely to engage you in a positive way. Here is your networking strategy. As I mentioned, I wrote a book called Networking for Nerds. This is the outline for my entire book. So if you want to take a photograph, this is the photograph to take, okay? And here, I'll get in the shot. Okay, how's that? Looking good? Okay, all right, great. All right, perfect. I want to walk you through this, and then I'm going to give you a case study of how I actually did each one of these things. So we start our network strategy by thinking about the fact that we are connected to every other person on the planet by no more than 6 degrees. So I know somebody who knows Dr. X, and you know somebody who knows Ms. X, okay, or Mr. X, or Mr. Y, or whatever. So if there is somebody that I want to talk to, if there is an ecosystem that I want to infiltrate, if there is an organization that I'd like to work for and with, chances are you already know somebody who knows somebody who's in there. So that is the way we think about this, that we can expand our networks so that we could potentially reach more people. It's a spectrum of activities, so we're investing in the relationship. First thing we got to do is we got to find people for our network. And in the very next slide, I'm actually going to show you how to do that. How do you find people for the networks? Once we find a person, and I'll give you an example. So I was reading a magazine article, and it was a magazine about public relations when I was doing a lot more public relations. I do more science writing now. But I was doing more PR, and I was reading a trade publication about public relations. And there was a very interesting article in that magazine that really, I thought it was very creative and funny and interesting. And at the bottom of the article, of course, it had the person's byline, it had her credentials, and it said where she worked. And she was the senior vice president of a global public relations firm. And I realized that this article that she had written, quite honestly, was a marketing device for her. She was promoting herself by writing this article. Because when you write an article, when you give a speech, when you network, when you're interacting with people, you are promoting your brand. You are promoting yourself. I'm promoting myself right now. So the key is when you write these things, think about that. So I knew that she was promoting herself in this way. So I found her contact information, and I wrote her an email. And I said, I really appreciated what you had to say about this subject because of these reasons. It really impacted me for these reasons. I'd love to have a longer conversation with you. Would it be possible to have a 15-minute or a 10-minute conversation with you about about careers in public relations and about this particular subject that you wrote? I think there might even be an opportunity for us to collaborate. I'd love to explore that with you. And she wrote back within 24 hours and said, absolutely, let's have a conversation. And then I researched her online, and I made sure, I asked for only 15 minutes, but I made sure in my list of questions to ask her that it was only going to take 15 minutes for our conversation. But I don't know if you know this about people. Some people, I'm not going to say who those people are or who that person is or who she is or any person, but some people like to talk endlessly about themselves. I'm not saying who those people are, okay? But they like to talk endlessly about themselves, and sometimes they talk more than the time allotted. And you know what? They talk a lot about themselves because they love themselves. I'm not saying who those people are, okay? But in the case of this particular woman, I asked for 15 minutes. I got her talking about herself, and she would not shut up. Some people, right? She would not shut up. So I was thrilled, right? Because she's giving me all sorts of information about the public relations industry and about the career that she's had in the past. And at the end of the conversation, I said, is there anybody else that you think I should be speaking to about this? And she said, actually, yes, you should talk to my friend Henry. And Henry was this super high-level worldwide recruiter of public relations executives. So Henry's not necessarily going to take my email. He's not going to take my phone call. But if I say referred by Jane, he is going to respond because Jane has vetted me. Because I'm networked with Jane, and Jane is networked with Henry. And so she gave me this guy's contact information among other people. And then I said to her, listen, First I said, what's your contact information? I want to make sure I have your contact information. I send thank you notes to everybody that helps me, usually handwritten notes. People really appreciate that. You know, like nobody gets mail anymore, so like to have a piece of paper with their name on it, they get super excited. So I had a handwritten note to her, and I got her contact information. And the final question I said to her, the final statement I said to her on the phone was, listen, if I can ever assist you with anything, please let me know. I work in higher education. If you're ever working on something relating to academia, call me. If you're working on something relating to science, let me know if I can assist you. I live in the desert, so if you're working on cactus-related projects or sand or riverbeds that have no water in them, call me. I know about these things. And if I can't answer the question, I can find somebody who can, because I'm resourceful. I didn't say because I'm resourceful, but I'm saying that to you, because you're resourceful. See, when I hire you, I don't just hire you for your beautiful brain. I hire you for all the beautiful brains that you have access to as well, because I know you're resourceful. You have a fantastic network. That's valuable to me as well. So I was trying to communicate to her that I was resourceful and that I would assist her. I was trying to be gracious and express my gratitude to her for taking the time that she'll never get back, except if she builds a time machine. That might work out, okay? So this was what I did with her. And this is what I do with everybody that I network with, for the most part. This is my networking plan. I reach out to somebody, I ask for an informational interview or an informal conversation, and that phrase, that phrase, informational interview or informal conversation, that's going to be our joke here, especially for the people who are watching this streaming. That phrase is a passphrase. It's a password to another person that tells them you're not trying to get something from them. You are trying to build that value exchange win-win alliance. So when you ask for an informal conversation, an exploratory discussion, an informational interview, they know you're not trying to get a job. They're going to be more likely to have that conversation. They're going to be more likely to network with you. So you ask for that conversation, then you ask them questions. And if you're curious to know what you discuss in the informational interview, I wrote an article in Physics Today magazine, which you can access for free online, called Informational Interviews. It's a two-part article in which I give you a list of the questions you ask and the template of the email that you use to invite somebody to talk to you for an informational interview. So it's called Informational Interviews by Alaina G. Levine, Physics Today magazine. And then I have the conversation, and then I thank them, and then I have to stay organized. I have to organize my contacts. So you use whatever system you find useful for you. I have a very unusual, I don't think it's unusual, it's just a very complicated process. I use notebooks, actual notebooks. I have a day planner, which is an actual paper planner. Combine that with computer programs and lists and Excel spreadsheets and LinkedIn. It works for me. It works for this head. But for you, it might be a different type of process to keep your network organized or your networks organized. And then I try and stay in touch. And ideally, I want to stay in touch at least about 4 times a year, once a quarter. And I follow up by giving them something of value, giving them a new idea, introducing new information about myself. Since we last spoke, I won the Nobel Prize. I thought you might be interested. Introducing new information about them. Since we last spoke, I saw you won the Nobel Prize. Congratulations. Enjoy meeting the King of Sweden. And then I give them an action item, usually a yes or no question that requires 20 seconds of brain power. So since we spoke about X, and I wanted to ask you, I saw in your recent paper in Nature that you talked about X and X plus 1. Have you ever thought about exploring X plus 2? So very quick question, but that keeps the conversation and the relationship going, growing, and flowing. So how do you find people for your networks? Well, there's many different ways. So first of all, your professional organizations, whatever trade, whatever profession you're interested in being in, that has a membership. There's a membership in it. You're a member yourself. And you can access the membership directory and you can take a look and see who's working in different areas. You can often do very complicated searches in membership directories. Conferences, certainly you can attend conferences to physically meet people. But I want to be honest with you. When I talk about networking, and I've been talking about networking today, most of the networking that I do, it's global. I'm not doing it in person. It's great when I meet people in person, but sometimes I don't have that opportunity. In fact, most of the time I don't, because I can't go to every single conference on the planet every single day. So a lot of the networking that I do is virtual. And via conferences, I look at the program and see who's speaking, and if they're talking on a subject that's interesting to me, and they sound like they're working in an area that's interesting to me, I will use the conference as a way to reach out to them. And I will say, subject line in the email, saw you're speaking at this conference. Dear Dr. Levine, my name is, I'm interested in this, I see you're speaking. Unfortunately, I'm not able to make it to this conference because I have another engagement, meeting the King of Sweden, of course. And but I'd love to have a conversation with you in the coming weeks. I think there might be an opportunity to collaborate. I see parallels between our interests. Could we have an exploratory conversation? 15 minutes tops, via phone or Skype. So the conference aggregates people together. It allows me to find people to network with. Same thing with reading. I read the journals in my field, but I also read articles, media articles, and I see who's quoted. And if they're quoted, they're promoting themselves, so I could reach out to them and ask them for an opportunity. Regional chapters of your associations are also very useful, as are alumni associations. And even if there isn't a formal alumni association associated with your alma mater, LinkedIn, which you should be on, and if you're not on it, that is your big homework assignment for today. Your big homework assignment is to create a LinkedIn profile so that you can be found by decision makers and you can appropriately promote yourself. LinkedIn has a feature called See Alumni, which allows you to look at alumni who are from Stellenbosch University all over the world. And it allows you to do searches to see physically where they are in the world, where they work, what they studied, what they do, and a couple of other parameters too. So if you were interested in working for Microsoft and you wanted to move to Germany, you could take a look and see who in Germany is working for Microsoft that went to Stellenbosch. You could see who is working in Microsoft who went to Stellenbosch, and you immediately have that bond. So you can use that as a way to connect with somebody. And then there's spontaneous networking on airplanes and trains and automobiles and ferries and boats and things of that nature, which I have engaged in too. As you can tell, I like to talk a lot, and if the person next to me is not inebriated on an airplane, usually they're up to having a conversation. And so one day I was sitting in the middle seat of an airplane, the middle seat. And there were two people having a conversation. They were work colleagues. They were conversing over me, okay? They're having a conversation. And I heard them use the word editor, because he's sitting right next to me. So I heard him use that word. So I super casually said, excuse me, I couldn't help but overhear, because he's right here. I couldn't help but overhear, but are you an editor? And he said, actually, no, I work in public relations for the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And I said, really, that's so interesting. I'm a science writer. I write about technology and engineering. And we got to talking, and he said, did you know that the largest nuclear waste technology conference takes place only 2 hours from where you live, from the town that you live in? And I said, no, I didn't know that. That's so fascinating. And he said, well, would you like me to introduce you to the head of that conference? And I said, that would be wonderful. And he did. And then I got a chance to go to that conference for free. And it was so interesting. And then while I was at that conference, the head of the conference comes over to me and he says, you're that science writer, right? And I said, yeah, I'm that science writer. And he says, well, wait a second. We have this publication, this newsletter that we're producing every day in the conference. And we need somebody to write for it. Would you be interested in writing for it? And we'll pay you, and we'll pay your expenses. And I was like, yes, please. That's awesome. Networking, check that, okay? So networking on airplanes, it can work. It absolutely can work. And I like to, particularly for those of you that are introverts and are neophytes in terms of networking, okay, new to networking, maybe uncomfortable in terms of networking, I want to give you some ideas in terms of networking and being more comfortable in networking. And networking with the person next to you on an airplane, in general, that's what I call low-stake networking. They may hire you. It's possible it's Elon Musk, probably, right? I'm sure it's going to be Elon Musk when you're flying, right? But not for me, okay? I'm not flying next to Elon Musk. But the point is that the person I'm sitting next to, it's useful for me to have a conversation with them, if only to alleviate any discomfort I have in starting a conversation with a stranger, to boost my confidence in communicating my brand and having a conversation with a stranger, and getting a chance to learn how to facilitate that type of networking. So engage in the low-stake, low-pressure networking that you have around you, so that when you're in a high-stake environment, like a conference, for example, in your field, you are more comfortable, you are more confident. So now I want to talk to you a little bit about how you can network at an event and how you can feel more comfortable and confident in that environment. So first of all, when you go to an event like a mixer at a conference or any kind of networking event, first of all, I want you to be aware that everybody is there for the same reason. Okay, we are all there to network. We want to meet other people. Even I, after networking for so many years, and I enjoy networking, even I, when I walk into a room filled with strangers, sometimes feel uncomfortable. And so I have things that I do to alleviate my discomfort and to boost my confidence. And one of those is to remember that we're all in the same boat. We all have the same goals. We're here to meet other people. That's number one. Number two, when I walk into a room, I'm going to be doing a couple of things to start the conversations and to start the networking. So the second thing I'm going to do after I walk into a room is I'm going to do some reconnaissance. So I'm taking data. I'm looking around. Do I see anybody I know? Do I see anybody I know? Hey, there's my team over there. I know those folks. We had a fantastic bride. It was amazing a couple of nights ago. So since I know them, hey, nice to see you again too. Since I know these chaps, I'm going to go up to them because that's going to calm my nerves to see somebody that I know. I'm going to go up and we're going to have a conversation. We're not going to spend 2 hours. I'm not going to deliver my dissertation to you. We're going to spend a few minutes. It's going to calm my nerves. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look to see if there's anybody by themselves at the networking mixer. Because generally, just like at a dance, nobody wants to be by themselves. I don't want to be by myself, so I want somebody to pick me to dance. And the same thing goes for a networking mixer. People want to be with other people. So I know I don't want to be alone, they don't want to be alone, so that's the person I'm going to go up to. The next type of networking that I'm going to do, and I'm going to tell you how to start the conversation in a moment, the next type of thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do reconnaissance in the room to look for what I call action nodes. Action nodes. An action node is something that allows for a conversation to be started around that particular experience. So a great example of action nodes, a couple of great examples of action nodes are, at a mixer, the registration table, the queue for the food, the queue for the drink. If there's a wonderful sculpture over here, like something interesting here, maybe there's a beautiful view, right? Like, so that I could go up to you as you're standing by this window and I could say, what a beautiful view. Now, I wouldn't do that if there was a person there, like, hey, nice view, eh? Like, I'm not going to do that, okay? But, if there's an actual view of, like, a landscape, that might be something to start the conversation with. The queue for the food. It's really, really long, right? It's going to take us 5 hours to get that sandwich. Well, you know what? I'm going to turn to you and I'm going to say, wow, this line is long. Boom! I've started the networking, okay? Mic drop, wow. I know, I just wrote that. Can you believe that I just came up with that line, okay? But the idea is I've actually done that. On cues, like I've turned to somebody and say, this is quite a long queue, and then they say yes, and then I say, I'm Alaina, and he says hi, and we ended up talking for 45 minutes. At the end, he's like, you're a science writer? And I said, yeah. He's like, well, would you be interested in potentially writing a book for us? I'm like, I will do you this favor. I will do you this favor one day. I will write this book for you. But the idea is that can be what you start the conversation around, the action node, okay? So I really highly encourage you in mixers, if you're not sure what to start the conversation with, is to look for the action nodes and really take advantage of those. And then the next thing I want you to be thinking about is, what do you actually talk about? So once I said hello, my name is, I'm a student at Stellenbosch, I'm a PhD student doing this, then what do you talk about? Then what do you say, right? So then I'm going to say to you, how did you get into this work? Oh, that's so interesting. What's the best part of your job? What kind of problems do you solve? What are projects that you're interested in? Somebody a few hours ago asked me, is it appropriate, like at a mixer, to talk about personal things? Like, are you interested, like, what do you do for hobbies? And I think asking about somebody's hobbies is totally appropriate. I'm a runner, and if somebody saw that I was like wearing my running sneakers or something at a conference and said, oh, do you run? I'd be happy to have a conversation about it. So these are the kinds of things that you can converse about. And then the other thing I want you to be thinking about is, what do you do when there's an aggregation of people, a globular cluster of people at a mixer, right? Because you walk into a mixer and there's like parties of 2, parties of 3, then there might be people orbiting around like the senior member of the community, right? And there's like a globular cluster of people here. Okay, so how do we infiltrate this? So what I would do is I would actually stand near, and as I mentioned earlier, most people are humans, so they would see me and they would physically move their body to welcome me into the circle. And then what happens usually in networking mixers is you could potentially add to the conversation with the person in the middle or with the team. You listen for a while. You don't have to interrupt them. You listen and see if there's a place that would be appropriate for you to say, oh, that's interesting. Have you ever done this? Or, oh, I'm from that area. Have you ever visited there? Or you could just sit and observe. And the other thing also that happens is usually when there's a large group, it usually starts to break off into small parties of 2 or 3. So then I could have a conversation with you standing right here. But what I want you to also be aware of is that sometimes in conferences and in mixers, sometimes you will interact with people who are humans, but they are jerks. And here's how I want you to be able to know how to deal with the jerks, because you don't have time for the jerks. You have only time for the gracious human people, okay? So I was at a mixer where I saw this amazing Dr. Amazing and Mr. Awesome. And I was like, wow, those 2 people I want to work with. I can't believe they're in the same space, in the same time. I can't believe it. I'm so excited. And they were talking to each other like this. And I walked up to them to potentially create, the triangle, right? Thinking that they would adjust their body to see that I'm physically there and welcome me into the space. And they were standing and talking to each other like this. And what was strange, I was super young, it was like when I was 22, so last year. And so it was, I was sitting there and I approached them and they're facing each other like this, talking, and then I'm here, and then I noticed that they adjusted their bodies and went like this. They adjusted away from me. And I thought, that's weird. They must not see me. They just don't see me. Okay, so all right, that's fine. I can manage. I can handle it. I'll just sort of show them that I'm physically here, right? So I shimmied in here. I just sort of did the moves, so that they could physically see that I was here, right? And they're standing here like this, and then they adjusted and they went like this. And now they must not have seen me again. That's weird. And I did the move again, and then now they adjusted and they are literally standing shoulder to shoulder, talking like this with their backs to me. Okay? Those 2, Dr. Awesome and Mr. Amazing, not so much. Not so much. Very rude. Very inappropriate. Very unprofessional. I don't have time for that. Neither do you. So if that ever happens to you at a mixer where somebody is unprofessional, and I don't mean that they physically or literally didn't see you, they just were being unprofessional and being rude. If that ever happens to you, you know what? Don't take it personally and just move on. There's a whole group of people here that we can network with. I'm not going to worry about it. It's not my business if they're going to be rude. It's their own business. So don't worry about it. At a mixer, we're going to dress appropriately for the mixer. If it's a professional thing, if it's a career thing, we're going to dress appropriately. We're going to ask and bring with us business cards, and we're going to learn proper business etiquette in terms of addressing people and meeting people. So when I first meet somebody, I'm going to extend my hand for a handshake. I'm going to look you in the eye. I'm going to say your name. I'm going to say my name so you can hear it. I'm going to make sure I pronounce your name correctly. I'm going to smile because this is a happy day. Happy networking. Not sad. Happy. And handshake, by the way, very simply, you are not, you're going to hold the whole hand firmly, but gently, okay? You're not ice climbing, okay? You are not, it's not a grappling hook. You're not holding on for dear life on the edge of a cliff. It is a firm but closed and full and gentle handshake. 2 pumps, and then get out. That's it. You're done. 2 pumps. Get out. Get out while you can. Oh my goodness. There are some men, particularly in the United States, on the southern part of the United States, they will hold on to a young lady's hand. They will just hold on forever, and talk about mid-juleps. And let me tell you, extract, egress, escape, get out. Okay? So 2 pumps, you're done. 2 pumps and you're done. And by the way, as a woman, I am aware that there are people around the world that are men who are not, who do not feel comfortable shaking my hand. And you know what? If I go to shake your hand and you do not feel comfortable shaking my hand, as women too, you know what? That's no problem. You just tell me that and I'll say, it's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. And I'll put my hands to my side. Totally appropriate. Okay? So you can respect that. So you're not there for the food and drink. The food and drink is great. I want you to partake, okay? Hold your drink in your left hand because you're going to be shaking with your right, okay? Have your brand statement ready, so your elevator pitch about what it is that you are interested in doing and what kinds of things you're thinking about. Work the room, meaning walk the room is what I mean. Get people talking about their favorite subject ever, which is themselves. Look for those action nodes, and don't be afraid to just go up and introduce yourself. Nowadays, I will actually just go up and introduce myself to people, and my opening line is, "Hi, I'm Alaina." And simple as that. But we're not going to be rude or monopolize, because, again, the networking is about, at the mixer, is about optimization. We have a very finite period of time, which I'm totally aware of. 100% of the time, I'm aware that we have a finite period of time. And we need to optimize our time. So as a result, we're going to make sure that we don't deliver a thesis or deliver an entire speech when we're networking. Instead, we're going to talk for a few minutes and then remove ourselves. Now, how do we remove ourselves? We don't do it in the middle of the sentence. We don't do it in the middle of the word. We wait for a bird to sing a really loud sound, and then we say, you know, that's such an interesting bird. You know, I really enjoyed speaking with you. Thank you so much. I'm going to go get a drink, but can I get your business card, because I'd love to follow up with you. I think there might be an opportunity for us to work together. Would you be interested in continuing this conversation in the near future? Yes, thank you, goodbye, and then migrate. Okay? That's it. You're migrate after that. So don't give out your resume at a mixer, because it's just not appropriate. That's why the business cards are more appropriate. But do follow up. It goes beyond the physical act of the event. And then remember this. I said it at the beginning of this talk, and I'm going to say it again at the end of the talk, and I'm going to say it now. It is a privilege and an honor. It is always a privilege and an honor to interact and to network with people who are as passionate about a subject as you are. Not everybody on the planet has that honor or that privilege. Make sure you remember that. Make sure you recognize that. Okay? So now, the bottom line. Networking, it's a necessity. It's a requirement. But if you do it, the more you do it, the easier and simpler it gets, the more confident you get. When you network, you are communicating your brain, you are communicating your expertise and the problems that you could potentially solve for customers, for employees, employers, and for potential collaborators. You are helping the community. Networking is about what can I offer you, not what can I take. When we network and when we self-promote, we're actually causing a potential innovation to occur in the community, because we're building new ideas and new problem solvers who can bring new ideas. It's inherently linked to that self-promotion. It should be diversified. It should go beyond your area of expertise. It should go beyond your geography. It should go beyond your field and your whatever ecosystem you want to go into. You want to diversify your networks. But I will tell you this. When you network, you create opportunities for yourself and for others. You manifest them out of nothing. And you are able to create magic. And if you want to have that dream career, if you want to have that unicorn career where you are in bliss and in flow, and you are smiling all the time and are able to be your authentic self, which is the promise for you, as a Stellenbosch star, you are going to be networking. So I want to thank you so much for the honor and the privilege of being here. This has been a delight. I want to thank this team for inviting me here, and for all the people who have been so hospitable and have shown me such graciousness throughout the whole week that I've been here. This was my first time to South Africa, and I cannot tell you what a privilege and an honor, and I just feel so welcomed here. And I just want to thank you all so much for this. I am not going to wish you good luck, because you don't need it, but I will say enjoy your career adventures. You're in for a magical ride. Thank you so much. Stellenbosch, you rock. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So now, the best way to stay in touch with me is to connect with me on LinkedIn. So connect with me on LinkedIn, and I will announce the winner of the book over Twitter in the next 24 hours. And I'm also here for the next 3 to 4 hours. So, so I'm here to answer any questions that you have. But again, thank you so much for your kind attention. I really appreciate it. And for laughing at my jokes. I appreciate that too. So, how can I help you?